How everyone online just loves a good debate?
Mm-hmm.
And a few topics get as heated as cultural appropriation.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's especially tricky in today's world,
Mm-hmm.
just because cultures are constantly interacting and influencing each other.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we're going to be exploring how Japan,
Okay.
a country with such a rich and distinct history, views this whole idea of cultural appropriation.
Interesting.
We're doing that by looking at a video essay called Japan Rejects Cultural Appropriation Theory. Here's why.
Okay.
It uses a really interesting case study,
Mm-hmm.
a controversial Vogue photo shoot to kind of kick off the conversation.
Clever approach. I like that.
Yeah, using a specific example like that can help us really understand all the nuances.
Totally.
So to set the scene, it's 2017.
Okay.
Vogue releases its diversity issue.
Mm-hmm.
One of the models featured is Carly Claus, posing in outfits inspired by geisha attire.
I think I can guess what happened next.
Yeah, but you can probably guess the
Uh-huh.
internet exploded.
Oh,
With accusations of yellowface and cultural insensitivity,
wow.
Western media and social media were all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Many were expressing outrage on behalf of the Japanese.
It's interesting how often we see that
Right.
people speaking for a culture that they might not actually belong to.
Yeah, and with all this pressure, Carly Claus ends up issuing a public apology.
Oh, wow. It makes you wonder if the outrage would have been as intense if the model had been Japanese.
Totally. It really makes you think.
Yeah.
But let's back up a bit
Okay.
and define what we even mean by cultural appropriation.
Right.
The video actually quotes a law professor, Susan Scapiti.
Okay.
She describes it as taking intellectual property, traditional knowledge, cultural expressions, or artifacts from someone else's culture without permission.
That's interesting because it's pretty straightforward at first,
Right.
but then you think about it and you could apply it to so many things,
Yeah.
which is exactly what the video essay argues.
Mhm.
They're saying that the definition is so broad, it could be applied in a way that targets certain cultures unfairly.
Right. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
The essay dives into how people in Japan actually reacted to the photo shoot.
Okay.
Remember how everyone in the West was going crazy over it?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
BuzzFeed Japan decided to cover the story for their audience.
I'm guessing they were expecting a similar level of outrage.
Exactly.
Trying to tap into that viral energy.
Right.
Right.
But here's the wild part.
Okay.
BuzzFeed Japan did a poll
Mm-hmm.
asking their readers what they thought about the photo shoot.
Okay.
Only 9% had a negative reaction.
Wow, that's a huge difference from the Western response.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
A full 58% said they had no problem with it at all.
That's a big difference.
Some even left positive comments.
Oh, wow.
One reader, Junko, said, "I am Japanese, but I did not mind at all. No problems. The photos were taken so beautifully and creatively. Thank you for introducing Japanese cultural beauty."
That's pretty powerful, especially compared to the accusations of insensitivity we were hearing in the West.
Right.
It seems like there's a big disconnect here.
There is. Another reader, Ryu, commented, "Check out the vote above. Almost all Japanese take a positive view of Carly as a Japanese cultural model."
So it's like two completely different conversations happening at the same time.
It really highlights how differently cultural exchange can be viewed.
For sure.
So how does the video essay explain this difference in viewpoints?
Right.
They suggest that it might come down to cultural values.
That makes sense.
Right? Different cultures develop different ways of seeing the world.
Yeah.
The FA even uses the term faux outrage
Oh.
to describe how Western society sometimes get worked up about things that other cultures just don't find offensive.
And it makes you wonder, if we're so quick to be outraged on behalf of others, are you really understanding their perspectives?
Right.
Or are we just imposing our own value?
It's like we've got Westerners claiming to be offended on behalf of the Japanese, while most Japanese people aren't even bothered at all.
That's pretty ironic.
It is.
Yeah, it highlights the complexities of cultural exchange
Mm-hmm.
and the danger of just making assumptions.
And to really drive the point home,
Okay.
the video shows images of Japanese people on Halloween dressed up in costumes like French maids, cowboys, and Where's Waldo?
It's almost like they're saying we can appreciate elements of other cultures without feeling like our own identities are being threatened.
It definitely challenges this idea that all cultural exchange is inherently bad.
This brings up a really interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Does cultural exchange actually depend on intent? Is it possible to appreciate and even borrow from another culture without being disrespectful?
Right.
Or is there always a power dynamic at play that we need to be aware of?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore more deeply in part 2.
Looking forward to it.
We were just talking about how differently cultures view things like borrowing from another culture. It's fascinating how something could be seen as appreciation by one group and offensive by another.
Yeah, it really highlights how much our cultural background shapes our perceptions, even if we don't realize it.
And, the video essay we're discussing actually takes this idea a step further. They suggest that the concept of cultural appropriation itself might actually be, well, a bit of a Western concept.
Now, that's a bold claim. What leads them to that conclusion?
Well, they argue that the idea of owning a culture like it's something that could have been stolen isn't as prevalent in other parts of the world. And they specifically point to Japan as an example.
That's interesting. Japan has such a long history of cultural exchange with other countries, particularly in Asia.
Right? Think about Buddhism, one of the main religions in Japan. It originated in India. And so many aspects of Chinese culture have been woven into Japanese society over the centuries.
And yet we don't typically see accusations of cultural appropriation when it comes to these influences. It's like there's a different understanding of how cultures interact.
Exactly. It's more about a natural flow of ideas and influences rather than a sense of ownership or boundaries.
Which raises the question, what makes the Western concept of cultural appropriation different? Why is it so often a source of controversy?
Well, the video offers a few possibilities. One idea is that Western societies have become much more sensitive to issues of power and privilege in recent years.
That's true. There's definitely been a greater awareness of historical injustices and inequalities.
And that's a good thing. But the essay argues that this heightened awareness has sometimes led to a kind of cultural essentialism. It's like saying this particular cultural element belongs exclusively to this specific group of people, and anyone outside that group can't touch it.
So it creates a very strict sense of ownership and boundaries.
Exactly. And that can actually hinder genuine cultural exchange and understanding. If we're so worried about crossing lines, we might miss opportunities to connect with other cultures and learn from them.
It's like walking on eggshells all the time, afraid to make a mistake.
Right. So the video essay suggests that maybe we need a more nuanced approach, one that acknowledges the importance of respect and sensitivity, but doesn't shut down all forms of cultural exchange.
That makes sense, but it's a tricky balance, isn't it? How do we engage with other cultures in a way that's both appreciative and responsible?
Well, the video actually offers some guidance on that, and they really emphasize the importance of context. For example, wearing a traditional garment as a costume for a Halloween party is going to be perceived very differently than wearing it with a genuine understanding and appreciation for its cultural significance.
So it's not just about what you do, but why you do it. Your intention matters.
Exactly. And I think it's also about being willing to learn and to be open to different perspectives. If we're not sure about something, it's always better to ask than to assume.
I like that open communication and dialogue can go a long way in preventing misunderstandings.
Absolutely. So we've been talking a lot about the Western view of cultural appropriation. But what about the Japanese perspective? The video essay suggests that Japan might have a more nuanced understanding of borrowing from other cultures. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. One concept the video mentions is wakan yosai, which translates to Japanese spirit Western learning. It refers to a specific period in Japanese history, the Meiji era, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Japan was modernizing and industrializing rapidly.
So they were looking to the West for ideas and technologies to help them progress.
Exactly. And they adopted many Western innovations, but they did so in a way that preserved their own cultural identity.
So they weren't just blindly copying everything. They were adapting those influences to fit their own values and way of life.
Precisely. Wakan Yosai reflects this idea of taking the best of what the West had to offer while still maintaining a strong sense of Japanese tradition. It's like blending the old with the new.
That's fascinating. And I wonder, does that historical approach still influence how Japan views cultural exchange today?
I think it definitely plays a role. This idea of selectively adopting elements of other cultures while retaining a strong sense of their own identity is still very much present in Japanese society.
We see that in Japanese pop culture, right? Like anime and manga, they often incorporate Western influences but remain distinctly Japanese.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of cultural fusion, taking inspiration from different sources and creating something new and unique.
And this approach challenges the idea that all cultural borrowing is inherently bad or disrespectful. Sometimes it can lead to really cool and innovative things.
Right. But it's also important to acknowledge that even in a culture like Japan, which has a history of openness to outside influences, there can still be issues when it comes to cultural exchange.
You're right, it's not always a perfect process. Are there any examples of that come to mind?
Well, one that comes to mind is the way Ainu culture has been treated in Japan. The Ainu are an indigenous people of Japan, mainly living on the northern island of Hokkaido.
I've heard about them, but I don't know much about their history.
They have a rich and distinct culture, but unfortunately they've faced a long history of discrimination and assimilation by the Japanese government.
So there's been an effort to suppress their culture rather than celebrate it?
Yes, and that suppression has included their language traditions and spiritual beliefs. It's a reminder that cultural exchange can sometimes be used as a tool for power and control.
That's a really important point. It's not always about borrowing or adapting. Sometimes it's about erasing.
Exactly, and it shows that even in a country like Japan, with its relatively tolerant attitude towards cultural borrowing, there are still instances where power dynamics and historical injustices come into play.
It's a good reminder that we need to be aware of the potential harm that can be done, even if it's unintentional.
Absolutely, and I think it highlights the importance of being sensitive to the history and context of the cultures we're engaging with.
So even though Japan might have a different view on cultural borrowing in general, there are still specific cases where things can get complicated.
Right? It's not a simple black and white issue. There are so many layers to consider.
Well, this has certainly given us a lot to think about. In part 3, we'll explore some real-world examples of how cultural exchange has played out in Japan, both the good and the bad. So we've been diving deep into this whole idea of cultural appropriation, right, using Japan as our case study.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've seen,
Yeah,
it's really complex
definitely.
with a lot of different perspectives.
It's not as simple as saying all cultural exchange is good or bad.
Right.
There are just so many factors to consider.
And in this final part, I thought it'd be interesting to look at some real-world examples of how cultural exchange has played out in Japan,
Okay.
both the successes
Mm-hmm.
and the, well, not-so-successful moments.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to ground our conversation.
Right.
Seeing how these abstract ideas manifest in real life can give us a deeper understanding.
To start off on a positive note, the video essay highlights a really cool example of successful cultural fusion in Japan.
Okay.
The whole phenomenon of ishoku. Ah, yes, ishoku.
Literally Western food.
Literally Western food. But it's so much more than just a direct import of Western cuisine.
It sounds like it has its own unique story. What exactly is it?
Imagine this. It's the Meiji era in Japan, the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Japan is modernizing at an incredible pace, opening up to the world, and Western influences are pouring in. Food is a big part of that.
So Japanese chefs are starting to experiment with new ingredients and cooking styles from the West.
Exactly. But they're not just copying, they're adapting, blending these new ideas with traditional Japanese flavors and techniques. And what emerges is a whole new category of cuisine ishoku that's distinctly Japanese but with clear Western roots.
So it's like a hybrid cuisine.
Yeah.
What are some examples of ishoku dishes?
Think about dishes like omuris, a savory omelet filled with rice often topped with ketchup, or kararezu, Japanese curry rice. These dishes have Western origins omelets in curry, but they've evolved to become something truly unique to Japan.
That's fascinating. So ishoku isn't seen as cultural appropriation in Japan. Not at all. It's seen as a testament to Japan's ability to embrace outside influences and create something new and exciting. It's a source of national pride.
It's like they took these foreign ingredients and made them their own. Kind of like how they took baseball and turned it into a national obsession.
A great analogy, and ishoku is just one example. Think about how Japanese fashion designers have taken Western clothing styles and reinterpreted them, creating unique and internationally recognized brands.
It seems like Japan has a real knack for this kind of cultural blending. But as we discussed earlier, not all cultural exchange is this harmonious. There are definitely cases where things get a little more complicated.
That's true, and the video essay doesn't shy away from that. They acknowledge that even in a country like Japan, with its history of cultural openness, there are examples of appropriation that have been harmful.
What are some examples of that?
One example they touch upon is the issue of Ainu culture. As we discussed before, the Ainu are an indigenous people of Japan primarily inhabiting the northern island of Hokkaido. They have their own unique language traditions and spiritual beliefs.
And they faced a lot of discrimination and pressure to assimilate.
Unfortunately, yes. For centuries, the Japanese government implemented policies aimed at suppressing Ainu culture and forcing them to adopt mainstream Japanese customs.
So in this case, it wasn't just about borrowing or adapting, it was about erasing.
Exactly. And this erasure has had a devastating impact on the Ainu people, their sense of identity, and their cultural heritage.
It's a stark reminder that cultural exchange can sometimes be a tool for domination and control, rather than mutual understanding and enrichment.
It's a dark side of cultural exchange that we can't ignore, and it highlights the importance of understanding the power dynamics at play and being sensitive to the historical context.
So what can we take away from all of this? What does it mean for us as individuals trying to navigate this complex world of cultural exchange?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that Cultural exchange is a powerful force capable of both great good and great harm. It can enrich our lives, broaden our perspectives, and foster connections between people. But it can also be used to exploit, erase, and marginalize cultures.
So it's not as simple as avoiding all forms of cultural borrowing.
Right.
It's about being aware,
Yeah.
respectful, and responsible.
Exactly. It's about understanding that cultures are not static objects to be owned or controlled. They're living, breathing things that evolve and change over time. And exchange can be a part of that evolution, but it needs to be done with care and sensitivity.
What are some practical ways we can engage in cultural exchange responsibly?
I think the video offers some really good advice on that. They emphasize the importance of doing your research, understanding the cultural significance of the things you're interested in.
So not just taking things at face value, but digging a little deeper, learning the history and understanding the context.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Seek guidance from people who belong to those cultures. Listen to their perspectives and learn from their experiences.
And be mindful of your intentions. Ask yourself, why am I interested in this? Am I genuinely trying to learn and appreciate, or am I just trying to be trendy or cool?
Those are excellent points. Ultimately, it comes down to treating other cultures with the same respect and consideration you would want your own culture to be treated.
It sounds like a lot to keep in mind, but I think the more we talk about these issues, the more aware we become and the better equipped we are to navigate these complexities.
I agree. Open dialogue and respectful engagement are key.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. We've explored so much, from a controversial Vogue photo shoot to the nuances of Japanese cultural exchange. What a journey.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. I always find it so enriching to examine these complex issues from different angles.
Me too, and I hope our listeners feel the same way. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with one final thought. The world is full of diverse and beautiful cultures. Let's approach each other with curiosity, respect, and a willingness to learn, and let's keep the conversation going.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.